All right, this is These We the People News. One more time, not attorney, not a. Uh, anyway, I'm not an attorney. I'm not giving legal advice. Educational purposes only. Okay. Anything I say do is just my opinion, my commentary. All right, but not an attorney, so I'm not giving legal advice. Look straightforward, or never look straightforward. Always look around you. Be able to protect yourself by any means necessary. Arm yourself with knowledge. Use that Second Amendment. This is power inherited in the people. Go check out his videos. You guys are going to learn a whole lot. And here is evidence of all the people in there grouping and working together. Okay? Now remember, challenge jurisdiction of the courts is not a summer citizen thing, which is going to be brought up. Quit listening to these idiots out there. Okay? Uh, and there is Supreme Court cases, numbers of them, that says once it's been challenged, must be clear. How does the courts have it? You can't just say, "Oh, I got the magical powers." Oh, no, I deny your request. I just have it because I got magical powers. I've become into witchcraft. Stupid fucking idiots. Anyway, she does everything she needs to do, and I don't think I need to cut in too much because she was awesome. All right, so she's one of my new favorites as well. Let's go. There may be commercial breaks between here too, so I may have to split that up a little bit. Get your popcorn out. It's movie night.
Leslie, 25 CR 250. Good
Yes, Your Honor.
afternoon, Miss Leslie. Miss Leslie, you're charged by way of information on or about May 21, 2025 in Butler County, Kansas.
By way of information, where's the affidavit on appeal and perjury? Who's the claimant? Who's the man or woman making the claim? Who's the injured party? All right. What's the nature and cause and effect? Come on, Judge, speak up.
With interference with law enforcement, a Class A non-person misdemeanor. Count 2, same date and location. No proof of insurance, a Class B non-person misdemeanor. Same date and location. Count 3, no driver's license in possession, an unclassified non-person misdemeanor. Though, then count 4, same date and location.
Now, just for advice, maybe something to look at, thinking outside the box. Maybe in your paperwork that you want a witness and you call all the your representatives to come in court to file a criminal complaint against you, to be there in court to testify how you injured them. Because you have a right to face your accuser, right? Well, I need the state of Texas to appear. I need them to stand up here on the stand and say how I caused them harm, loss, and damages, and how this became a criminal matter if the fake entity has never been injured, and yet you guys keep claiming they're injured. I need the Mr. and Mrs. State of Texas all appear.
Failure to register vehicle and unclassified non-person misdemeanor. And Miss Leslie, do you understand the charges pending against you?
I comprehend the alleged charges against me.
Thank you, Miss Leslie. Miss Leslie, you do have the right to counsel if you cannot afford an attorney.
Excuse me, I was going to say that I comprehend the certain statutory allegations that have been made against me, but I cannot and do not admit to understanding or accepting the jurisdiction of this court over my person or the subject matter absent proof of corpus delicti and a verified complainant from an injured party. To do so would constitute a waiver of fundamental rights, which I explicitly refuse to waive pursuant to KSA subsection 60-212 and the doctrine of special appearance recognized in Kansas jurisprudence.
Okay. You do have the right to counsel if you cannot afford an attorney. One would be appointed to represent you. And Ms. Leslie, are you currently employed?
For the record, Your Honor, just to start from the beginning, I, Sydney Taylor Leslie, appearing specially and not generally in propria persona, sui juris, as a living woman and not as a legal fiction or corporate entity, I reserve all rights without prejudice pursuant to KSA subsection 84-1-308 and UCC 1-308. Let the record reflect that my appearance today is under explicit protest and duress and solely for the purpose of challenging jurisdiction and preserving my unalienable rights as secured by the Constitution for the United States of America and the Constitution of the State of Kansas. And Your Honor, before these proceedings advance further, I must respectfully challenge this court's jurisdiction in toto and move for immediate dismissal of all charges. I hereby invoke the burden-shifting doctrine established in State v. Shepard in 2009 and State v. Seams in 2004, which places the affirmative burden upon the prosecution to establish by sworn non-hearsay allegations within the four corners of a valid charging instrument that every element of the alleged offense and my commission thereof has been properly established. The threshold matter of jurisdiction must be adjudicated prior to any other proceedings. As articulated in Ex parte Young in 1908 and recognized by the Kansas Supreme Court, jurisdiction is a fundamental prerequisite to all jurisdictional proceedings. The legal maxim ex injuria just non autora, law does not arise from injustice, applies to these proceedings in their entirety.
Okay, and the court finds that Miss Leslie is appearing as a sovereign citizen before the court, and the court once again.
I object to any of that derogatory. It's very biased. I move for immediate dismissal on those grounds. And this
Court overrules the motion for dismissal of the case. Overrules dismissal of the
prejudice
case.
And
the court will find that Miss Leslie, that the court does find it has jurisdiction to proceed, and subsequently the court
I object. You called me a sovereign citizen. I object. You called me a sovereign citizen.
Yes, ma'am.
That is prejudice and bias.
No prejudice or bias is asserted as to yourself. However, the court, as opposed to trying to write down docket notes to that effect, is just recognizing what you are advising the court, that the court has no jurisdiction over you, and based on your statement made to the court.
Okay, clarification. 1940, okay? They say sovereign citizen is self-governing and is one of the people, okay? Several court cases of 1800s, 1837, spiritually says that they are the people, okay? Self-governing, okay? It doesn't say they don't believe in government. It says they are self-governing, all right? And way they changed, way the courts did this in the recent years, has made it where you don't believe in government. So they are misleading you, falsifying what the previous court said, and falsifying what the Congress and Truman Act was about in 1940, which today is called, what? September 17th, Constitutional Day. So he is directly in violation, and he needs to recuse himself now, which he will get into here in a minute.
Subsequently, the court does find you've posted a $3,000 cash bond. $3,000 cash bond has been made. Court does accept the same, and the court does schedule this matter next before Judge Webster on Monday, August 11, 2025 at 9 a.m.
So he said Judge Webster was going to be a different judge. So he's administrative, all right? And he's saying he finds subject matter jurisdiction, personal jurisdiction, even though there is none. And he has not clearly established there is such thing, where Supreme Court cases said you must be clear about this. And again, he's ignoring his boss's rulings and passing it on to the Article 3, which is always good. But if there's a criminal matter, it needs to start in Article 3 and not in administrative under contract. That's the reason why she's calling herself a woman and all that kind of crap, and not the person.
Monday, August 11, 2025, 9 a.m. before Judge Webster. Once again, Monday, August 11, 2025, 9 a.m. before Judge Webster. You do need to participate by Zoom process at that point. Subsequently, the court finds that Miss Leslie has not requested court-appointed counsel. Court does not appoint counsel at this point. The court does find that she has posted bond in the amount of $3,000 cash, $3,000 cash bond, and the court has scheduled her next appearance date before Judge Webster on Monday, August 11, 2025 at 9 a.m. Any other matters to come before the court, Mr. Sweeney?
No, Your Honor.
And Miss Leslie?
Your Honor, my jurisdictional challenge is predicated upon multiple independent grounds, each sufficient to warrant dismissal. First, I found personal jurisdiction pursuant to Kansas Rule of Civil Procedure. I appear specially, not generally, and have not consented to this court's jurisdiction. The record before this court is devoid of evidence establishing proper jurisdiction over my person as a living woman rather than a legal fiction or corporate entity, as distinguished in Hale v. Hinkle in 1906, and recognizing Kansas jurisprudence. Second, I challenge subject matter jurisdiction pursuant to Kansas Rule of Civil Procedure 60-212, B1. No verified complainant from any injured party has been filed as required by KSA subsection 22-2301 in Butler County Local Rule 3.1. The perpetrated charges arise from actions of agents of the state acting under a color of law, not from a legitimate controversy between adversarial parties withstanding as required by Article 3 jurisprudential principles adopted by Kansas courts and State ex rel. Morrison v. Livius. Third, I challenge territorial jurisdiction. The alleged incident occurred after I had ceased operating my conveyance and was exercising my unalienable right to travel, placing it outside the territorial jurisdiction of traffic enforcement under KSA subsection 8-244, which by its plain language applies only to licensees who have voluntarily entered the regulatory framework. Fourth, the prosecution cannot establish the corpus delicti of the alleged offenses. As held by the Kansas Supreme Court in State v. Stern in 2015, the corpus delicti rule serves as a safeguard against convictions based on false confessions or statements. One cannot interfere with a peace officer absent of officer's lawful execution of duties. Where the initial detention was unlawful, as it was here due to lack of probable cause, there can be no derivative crime or of interference. Fifth, the refusal to provide identification is not a crime in Kansas, absent specific statutory circumstances not present here today. This is in support by Brown v. Texas in 1979. The Supreme Court held that detaining a person solely to obtain identification it violates the Fourth Amendment absent reasonable suspicion of criminal activity. The principle has been recognized and applied by Kansas courts. In one moment, please, while I gather another statement.
Here's to a brand new day. There's hope on the other side of whatever it is you're facing right
Yeah. Told you this is my favorite, y'all. One of my favorites. She is awesome. And alrighty.
Okay, and another thing is, and this is, may it please the court, for the record, I must now enter an oral objection and motion for disqualification of the presiding judicial officer pursuant to Kansas Rule 2.11 of the Code of Judicial Conduct, as well as controlling principles under the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment. During a prior proceeding, specifically, that's proceeding, specifically, this court referred to me by the term sovereign citizen, a pejorative classification which carries with its government manufactured implications of extremism, frivolous, and legal irrelevance. This label, unprovoked and unsupported by any factual predicate, constitutes a stigmatizing judicial characterization that violates my right to a neutral and detached tribunal. The use of that term demonstrates either a prejudiced bias or a judicial predisposition toward delegating the substance of my legal posture. As the Kansas Supreme Court has held, even the appearance of partially mandates recusal, and here the record reflects actual prejudice in open court. Wherefore, I respectfully move this honorable court to dismiss all charges with prejudice for lack of jurisdiction, issue a finding that the prosecution has failed to meet its burden of establishing jurisdiction, order the immediate return of all my property seized, including the 251 USD, confiscated and converted to a reloadable Visa card without my consent, order the expungement and permanent sealing of every associated record pursuant to KSA subsection 22-2410, award compensation for the full measure of damages sustained, including costs for my automobile window repair, bail costs, and compensation for unlawful detention and deprivation of liberty, grant such and other and further relief as this court deems just and proper. The breaking of my automobile window with the warrant for probable cause of a search and confiscation of currency constitutes violations of clearly established rights for which the law provides remedies pursuant to the maxim ubi jus ibi ridiem, where there is a right, there is a remedy. I reserve all rights without prejudice, waive none, and maintain my special appearance for the sole purpose of challenging jurisdiction and preserving my alienable rights as secured by the Constitution for the United States of America and the Constitution of the State of Kansas. And thank you for hearing me. I do appreciate you, Your Honor, and thank you for your time.
And once again, matter is set before Judge Webster on Monday, August 11, 2025, 9 a.m. by Zoom. There being nothing further to come before the court is in recess, and have a good day, Miss Leslie.
There you guys go. She was awesome, people. Learn your rights. This is where men and women stand tall. This is the way the people news. Bye, y'all.